The glass walls of the United Earth Embassy sparkled under the morning sun as a strange figure walked through its main entrance. The visitor's blue-tinted skin and flowing white robes caught everyone's attention immediately. Security officers straightened their backs, and workers stopped their morning routines to stare. The alien was tall and graceful, with large eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. She introduced herself as Dr. Blue, a name she had chosen for human convenience. Her real name, she explained with a gentle smile, would be impossible for human vocal cords to pronounce. "I represent the Biological Research Institute of the Star Cluster Alliance," she said to the front desk officer, her voice clear and musical. "I have an appointment with the Earth Science Council." Within minutes, the embassy's main conference room was filled with Earth's top scientists and diplomats. Dr. Blue stood at the front, projecting a hologram that showed stunning images of different alien species and their DNA structures. "Your species fascinates us," she said, moving her long fingers through the hologram to zoom in on human DNA. "In all our travels across 12,000 star systems, we have never encountered genetic code quite like yours." The room fell silent. Dr. Jack Thompson, Earth's leading geneticist, leaned forward. "What makes our DNA so special?" Dr. Blue's eyes lit up with excitement. "It's your adaptability," she explained. "Your DNA shows signs of surviving countless near-extinction events. Instead of breaking, it grew stronger. My people believe this makes humans unique in the galaxy." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We would like to request DNA samples from human volunteers. We have developed technology that can turn genetic code into experiences. Think of it as stepping into the story of your own DNA." The diplomatic team exchanged worried looks. Ambassador Wilson cleared his throat. What exactly would these experiences involve? Dr. Blue touched another button on her wrist device. A new hologram appeared, showing what looked like comfortable pods with clear tops. "These are our biopods. They create safe, controlled environments where participants can experience different scenarios. The pods rig your DNA and create simulations based on your genetic memory and potential." "And what's in it for Earth?" asked General Roberts, his voice carrying a hint of suspicion. Dr. Blue's expression became serious. "Knowledge exchange, access to our medical technology, and most importantly, a chance to understand yourselves in ways you never imagined possible. My species has been studying biology for 50,000 years. We can help you unlock the secrets hidden in your genes." The meeting lasted for hours. Dr. Blue answered countless questions about safety protocols, data protection, and the exact nature of the experiences. She was patient, thorough, and surprisingly honest about both the possibilities and limitations of the technology. As the sun began to set, Ambassador Wilson made an announcement. "We will take your proposal to the World Council," he said. "But first, we'd like to see a demonstration." Dr. Blue nodded. "Of course. I can set up a small-scale demonstration within 3 days. You can choose the participants yourselves." As the meeting ended and people filed out of the room, Dr. Thompson stayed behind. He watched Dr. Blue gathering her holographic equipment. "There's something you're not telling us," he said quietly. "Something about why you're really interested in human DNA." Dr. Blue stopped what she was doing and looked at him. For a moment, her professional demeanor slipped, revealing genuine wonder in her eyes. "You're right," she admitted. "We've found traces in your DNA, patterns that shouldn't be possible. Your species has done something no other species has managed. You've written your own genetic story, and we want to learn how to read it." She left him standing there, surrounded by the fading light of the setting sun, his mind racing with the possibilities of what her words might mean for the future of humanity. The news of Dr. Blue's visit spread quickly across Earth. Within hours, social media was buzzing with speculation and excitement. Humanity was about to embark on an adventure that would change their understanding of themselves forever. And it all started with a simple request for their DNA. 3 weeks after Dr. Blue's arrival, screens worldwide lit up with the same message: "Earth needs volunteers." The announcement came with images of the sleek biopods and promises of an adventure unlike anything humans had experienced before. Tom Walker sat in his small apartment near the Pacific Ocean, watching the waves crash against the shore as he filled out the volunteer application. As a marine biologist, he had spent years studying how life adapted to extreme conditions. Now he had a chance to be part of something even bigger. Previous experience with extreme environments. He read aloud, typing about his deep-sea research. His hand shook slightly with excitement as he attached his medical records and submitted the form. The response was overwhelming. Within days, over 5 million people had applied. Dr. Blue's team set up testing centers in major cities across the globe. They weren't just looking for the healthiest or strongest. They wanted diversity in experiences, backgrounds, and ways of thinking. Tom received his invitation to the testing center 2 weeks later. The building was plain on the outside, but inside it looked like something from another world. Soft blue lights pulsed along the walls, and the air felt somehow cleaner, more alive. "Please step into the scanner," said a human assistant, pointing to what looked like a glowing doorway. As Tom walked through, he felt a gentle tingling sensation. On the other side, Dr. Blue herself waited with a tablet showing his results. "Fascinating," she said, her large eyes scanning the data. "Your cells show remarkable adaptation to pressure changes. Deep sea work, correct?" Tom nodded, trying not to stare at her blue-tinted skin. "Yes, I've spent a lot of time in underwater labs." "Perfect," she smiled. "You're exactly the kind of volunteer we're looking for. Someone who has already pushed their body to adapt to extreme conditions." The testing continued for hours. They checked his reaction times, problem-solving skills, and even how he handled unexpected situations. In one test, the room suddenly filled with harmless smoke. While other candidates panicked, Tom calmly found the exit, helping 2 others along the way. At the end of the day, Dr. Blue gathered all the candidates together. "You've all done remarkably well," she said. "But remember, being selected is just the beginning. The real challenge lies ahead." 1 week later, Tom received the news. He was one of the 100 chosen volunteers. The email came with a thick document of consent forms and a personal message from Dr. Blue. "Your adaptability scores were exceptional. We believe you will be particularly valuable to the program." The preparation began immediately. Tom and the other volunteers spent days learning about the biopods and the safety protocols. They met their fellow volunteers, a diverse group that included everything from firefighters to teachers, artists to soldiers. "The pods are perfectly safe," Dr. Blue explained during their first briefing. "They create a controlled environment where your mind experiences scenarios, but your body remains protected. Think of it as the most realistic dream you've ever had." As Tom signed the final consent form, he noticed something interesting. Dr. Blue wasn't just watching the volunteers. She was studying them with an intensity that suggested she was looking for something specific, something she hadn't told them about yet. "One last thing," she announced as the briefing ended. "Tomorrow, we begin the DNA collection process. But I must warn you, what we find in your genetic code might surprise even you. Humans have capabilities that you haven't even begun to understand." That night, Tom stood on his balcony, looking up at the stars. Tomorrow, he would begin an adventure that would reveal the hidden potential locked within human DNA. Little did he know, he was about to discover that humanity's greatest strengths weren't just in their genes, they were in their unbreakable spirit and endless capacity for adaptation. The 100 volunteers gathered in what looked like an amphitheater inside Dr. Blue's research facility. The room was circular, with seats arranged in rising tiers, all facing a central platform. The walls shimmered with a faint, pearl-like glow that seemed to respond to the movement in the room. Tom sat in the front row, his heart beating faster than usual. Next to him was Kate, a firefighter from Australia who had saved 15 people from a burning building last year. On his other side sat Marcus, a teacher who had survived 3 weeks alone in the wilderness after a hiking accident. Dr. Blue appeared on the central platform, but this time she wasn't alone. Behind her floated what looked like a tank of swirling, colorful liquid. "Today," she began, her voice carrying easily through the room, "I will show you what we've learned from your DNA samples." She gestured to the tank, and the liquid inside formed into a three-dimensional image of a DNA strand. "But first, I must tell you the truth about why we chose humans for this project." The room fell silent. Even the walls seemed to dim their glow. "My species," Dr. Blue continued, "can create experiences that feel completely real. We can make you feel like you're climbing a mountain, swimming in an ocean, or walking on another planet. But with your DNA, we can do something we've never done before." She paused, her large eyes scanning the room. "We can create experiences that capture the very essence of what makes you human." The liquid in the tank changed, showing scenes of human history, people surviving disasters, building cities, exploring unknown lands. "Your DNA carries the memory of every challenge your species has overcome, every adaptation, every survival story, every triumph against impossible odds. It's all written in your genes." Tom leaned forward, fascinated. The images showed humans in various situations, adapting to extreme cold, surviving in deserts, building tools from nothing. "But here's what makes you truly special," Dr. Blue said, her voice filled with excitement. "When we studied your DNA, we found something impossible. Your genetic code doesn't just adapt to survive, it adapts to thrive. It doesn't just remember past challenges, it imagines future ones and prepares for them." The tank now showed a complex pattern that looked like a living, breathing map of possibilities. "This is what we see in your DNA. Each strand contains not just what you are, but what you could become. It's like your genes are constantly dreaming of new ways to evolve." A hand rose from the audience. It was Marcus. "Are you saying our DNA thinks?" Dr. Blue's expression brightened. "In a way, yes. Your DNA doesn't just react to changes, it anticipates them. We've never seen anything like it in any other species." She walked closer to the front row. "And now we want to use our biopods to let you experience these possibilities. You'll be able to feel what your DNA already knows, that humans are capable of extraordinary things." Tom felt a shiver run down his spine as Dr. Blue explained the first test. They would start tomorrow, using the biopods to experience different scenarios drawn from their genetic memory. "But remember," Dr. Blue warned, as she concluded the presentation, "these experiences will feel completely real. Your mind won't know the difference between the simulation and reality. Are you ready for that?" The volunteers looked at each other. Tom saw the same mix of fear and excitement on their faces that he felt in his heart. As they left the amphitheater, Tom heard Marcus whisper to Kate, "Did you notice how she kept saying extraordinary things about humans? It's almost like she's more excited about this than we are." Tom smiled, but something else caught his attention. In a reflection on one of the walls, he saw Dr. Blue watching them leave, her expression a mixture of hope and something else, something that looked almost like need. Tomorrow, they would begin their journey into the hidden potential of human DNA. But Tom couldn't shake the feeling that Dr. Blue's real reasons for this project were still hidden, waiting to be revealed. The biopods looked like giant water drops made of clear crystal. Tom stared at his assigned pod, watching as it filled with a warm blue liquid that seemed to glow from within. Around him, the other volunteers were getting ready for their first experience. "The liquid helps your body feel weightless," Dr. Blue explained as she walked among the pods. "It also reads your brain signals and helps create the simulation." She stopped beside Tom's pod. "Are you ready?" Tom nodded, trying to hide his nervousness. He climbed into the pod and lay back. The liquid was surprisingly comfortable, like floating in a warm ocean. He heard Dr. Blue's voice through the pod speakers. "Close your eyes. The experience will begin in 3, 2, 1. Suddenly, Tom wasn't in the pod anymore. He stood on the edge of a vast ice field that stretched as far as he could see. The cold bit at his skin, and his breath came out in white clouds. It felt completely real. "This is a survival scenario," Dr. Blue's voice echoed in his mind. "Your ancestors once faced conditions like these during the last ice age. Let's see how your DNA remembers to adapt." Tom felt the cold growing stronger. His first instinct was to panic, but something else kicked in. A deep, ancient knowledge that seemed to rise from his very cells. He began to move, his body automatically adjusting to preserve heat. In another pod, Kate found herself in a scorching desert. Marcus was deep underwater. Each volunteer faced a different extreme environment. But something unexpected started happening. Tom's body began changing. His skin developed a layer of fine, insulating hair. His metabolism shifted, burning fat more efficiently for warmth. He wasn't just surviving the cold. His body was adapting to it in real time. "Impossible," he heard Dr. Blue exclaim through the system. "The genetic adaptations are happening 10 times faster than our models predicted." As Tom moved across the ice, he found himself instinctively reading the landscape. He could sense where the ice was thick enough to walk on, where food might be found. His mind felt sharper, more focused, as if thousands of years of survival knowledge had suddenly become available. In their pods, the other volunteers were showing similar abilities. Kate's skin had developed incredible heat resistance. Marcus's lungs had adapted to process oxygen more efficiently underwater. "Your DNA isn't just remembering past adaptations." Dr. Blue's voice was filled with wonder. "It's creating new ones. You're not just surviving. You're evolving." The simulation continued for what felt like hours. Tom built a shelter from ice blocks, found food where none seemed possible, and even helped other volunteers who appeared in his simulation as fellow survivors. When the experience finally ended, Tom opened his eyes to find himself back in the pod. His body was normal again, but he could still feel the echo of those adaptations, like muscles remembering a new exercise. As the volunteers climbed out of their pods, there was a strange silence in the room. They all looked at each other with new understanding. They had just experienced something that changed their view of what it meant to be human. Dr. Blue moved quickly between monitoring stations, her fingers flying over control panels. "The data is extraordinary," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. "Your DNA didn't just activate dormant survival traits. It invented new ones. No other species we've tested has ever done that." Tom walked over to Kate and Marcus. They looked tired but amazed. "Did you feel it too?" Kate asked. "Like your body just knew what to do?" Marcus nodded. "It was like having access to the combined survival knowledge of all our ancestors, but also," he paused, searching for words, "like we could go beyond that. Create new solutions." Tom noticed Dr. Blue watching them closely. Her expression was hard to read. Pride mixed with something that looked almost like worry. She held a data tablet that showed complex readings from their sessions, but her eyes kept returning to the volunteers themselves. "Tomorrow," she announced, "we'll try something even more challenging. Today you adapted to survive. Tomorrow, we'll see how your DNA helps you thrive." As they left the facility that evening, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that they had only scratched the surface of what human DNA could do. In his pocket, he felt the small notebook where he had written down his experience. One line stood out: "We're not just carrying our past in our DNA, we're carrying our future." Something strange was happening in Dr. Blue's research facility. For the first time since the project began, members of her own species were using the biopods. They wanted to experience what the human volunteers had felt. Tom watched as 3 tall, blue-skinned aliens entered their pods, their movements careful and precise. "We need to understand," Dr. Blue explained to the volunteers. "Your DNA has shown abilities that challenge everything we thought we knew about genetics." The aliens' first experience lasted only 10 minutes. When they emerged, they were shaking. One of them had to be helped out of the pod. Too intense, the alien whispered in their musical language, which the translators converted to English. The emotions, so strong. Dr. Blue called Tom, Kate, and Marcus to a private meeting room. The walls displayed data from both human and alien experiences in the pods. The difference was striking. Human patterns showed complex webs of adaptation and emotion, while the alien patterns were simple, straight lines. "Your DNA doesn't just carry information," Dr. Blue said, pointing to the displays. "It carries hope. When faced with impossible situations, humans don't just try to survive. You believe you can win. This belief actually changes your genetic expression in real time." Tom looked at the data. "Are you saying our emotions affect our DNA?" "More than that," Dr. Blue replied. "Your DNA and your emotions work together in a way we've never seen before. When humans feel hope or determination, your genes actually begin creating new possibilities." Kate leaned forward. "Is that why your people had trouble in the pods? Because they don't have this connection?" Dr. Blue nodded. "My species evolved to be logical, controlled. We thought this made us advanced. But your DNA shows us that true advancement comes from embracing both logic and emotion." The next day, more aliens tried the pods. This time, they stayed longer, attempting to understand the human experience. Tom watched as they emerged, their faces showing a mix of exhaustion and wonder. "I felt everything," one alien researcher said. "Fear, but also courage. Weakness, but also strength. How do humans carry such opposing forces within them?" Marcus smiled. "That's just being human. We're full of contradictions, but they make us stronger, not weaker." Dr. Blue's team made another discovery that day. When they compared the DNA samples from before and after the pod experiences, they found something remarkable. The human DNA had started creating new patterns, like it was learning and growing from each simulation. "Your genes don't just adapt to survive," Dr. Blue announced to the volunteers. "They adapt to thrive. Each challenge makes them stronger, more creative. It's as if your DNA enjoys solving problems." Tom noticed something else too. The aliens who had experienced the human simulations were changing. They showed more emotion, asked more questions, seemed more willing to try new things. One of them even laughed, a sound that had never been heard from their species before. "We thought we were studying you," Dr. Blue admitted to Tom later that day. "But you're changing us. Your DNA carries something we lost long ago. The ability to feel deeply and still think clearly, to face fear and still move forward." As the day ended, Tom wrote in his notebook, "Maybe this is humanity's real strength. Not just our ability to adapt, but our ability to help others adapt too. Our DNA doesn't just change us. It changes everyone around us." Dr. Blue watched the sunset through the facility's windows, her expression thoughtful. In her hand, she held a data crystal containing the day's results. The crystal glowed with patterns that had never been seen before, patterns that showed how human DNA was rewriting the story of what was possible. "Tomorrow," she said softly, "we'll try something even more ambitious. But first, I need to tell you the real reason I chose humans for this project. It's time you knew the truth." The alarms went off at midnight. Red lights flashed through the research facility as Tom jumped out of bed in his quarters. The emergency system was broadcasting a message. "Security breach in Lab Section C. All personnel evacuate immediately." Tom ran into the hallway where he found Kate and Marcus already heading toward the command center. Dr. Blue's voice came through the facility's communication system, calm but urgent. "All volunteers to the biopod chamber. We have unwanted visitors." When they reached the chamber, they found Dr. Blue rapidly working at the control panel. Her usual graceful movements were quick and sharp with worry. "Another alien species has breached our security," she explained as the volunteers gathered. "They call themselves the Collectors. They steal advanced biological research from other civilizations. They've learned about what human DNA can do." The building shook. Through the windows, they could see strange ships hovering outside, dark and threatening against the night sky. "They want your DNA samples," Dr. Blue continued. They believe they can use them to create weapons, to force the kind of adaptation we've seen, but for destructive purposes. Tom looked at the other volunteers. What can we do? We're not soldiers. Dr. Blue's large eyes seemed to glow with determination. No, you're something better. You're humans. Your DNA has shown us that you can adapt to any situation. Now we need that ability more than ever. She quickly explained her plan. The biopods could be used one last time, but not for simulation. This time, they would amplify the volunteers' natural adaptive abilities in the real world. It's never been done before, Dr. Blue warned. But then again, everything you've shown us was supposed to be impossible. The building shook again. The collectors were getting closer. Tom, Kate, and Marcus were the first to enter the pods. The familiar blue liquid felt different this time, more alive, almost electric. Dr. Blue's voice came through the speakers. Focus on what you need to become. Your DNA already knows how to protect what's important. As the collectors broke through the last security door, something extraordinary happened. The volunteers emerged from their pods, but they were changed. Tom could feel every molecule of air around him, could sense the precise location of every intruder in the building. Kate's skin had developed a subtle armor-like quality. Marcus moved with impossible speed and grace. The collectors burst into the chamber, tall figures in dark armor. They carried weapons that pulsed with strange energy, but they hadn't expected what they found. The volunteers moved as one, their bodies and minds enhanced by their own awakened DNA. Tom could sense the weak points in the collector's armor. Kate absorbed their weapon blasts harmlessly. Marcus disabled 3 of them before they could even react. Impossible, one of the collectors said, backing away. They're adapting to our attacks in real time. Dr. Blue worked frantically at her control panel, recording everything she saw. The human DNA isn't just adapting, she announced with amazement. It's learning from each challenge and sharing that knowledge with the others. They're evolving as a group. The fight was over in minutes. The collectors retreated, their weapons useless against humans who could adapt to any attack. As they fled back to their ships, Tom heard one of them say, "The legends were true. Earth must be quarantined. They're too powerful." As the effects of the pod enhancement wore off, Tom and the others gathered around Dr. Blue. She looked at them with a mix of pride and awe. "Now you understand," she said quietly. "This is why we chose humans. Your DNA doesn't just help you survive. It helps you protect others. You turn defense into connection, survival into growth. That's something the collectors could never understand." Outside, the sun was rising. The dark ships were gone, but something else had changed too. The humans had discovered a truth about themselves that could never be undone. They were more than their genes. They were living proof that the impossible was just another challenge waiting to be overcome. 1 month after the attack, the research facility had changed. The biopods now sat in a larger room, surrounded by representatives from different alien species who had come to learn from humanity. Tom stood at a podium, addressing the gathered crowd. "When Dr. Blue first asked for our DNA," he began, "we thought we were just helping with research. We didn't know we were about to change the galaxy's understanding of what life can become." Dr. Blue stood nearby, her blue skin now showing slight variations in color, a sign that her own species was beginning to embrace change. She smiled as she watched her former test subjects become teachers. The Galactic Council had made its decision that morning. Earth would be recognized as a heritage world, a planet whose species had unique gifts to share with the universe. But more importantly, they declared human DNA a living wonder, something to be protected and learned from, never weaponized. Kate demonstrated to a group of alien scientists how humans could now consciously access their DNA's adaptive abilities. Without the biopods, the changes were smaller and slower, but they were real. She showed how humans could slightly adjust their body temperature, enhance their senses, or speed up healing through focused intention. "The key," she explained, "isn't just in the DNA itself. It's in the connection between our minds, our emotions, and our genes. We don't just hope for change. We become the change. Marcus had started a new program, teaching alien children about human creativity and adaptability. The young aliens were especially fascinated by human stories, songs, and games, activities that their own species had forgotten in their pursuit of pure logic. Every human carries a universe of possibilities in their genes, Marcus told his students. But our greatest strength isn't just adapting ourselves. It's helping others find their own way to adapt and grow. Dr. Blue's own species had changed the most. After experiencing human emotions and adaptability through the biopods, they had started showing more creativity, empathy, and flexibility in their thinking. Some had even started telling jokes, though they were still working on understanding human humor. My people thought we were perfect, Dr. Blue admitted to Tom one evening. We had evolved beyond emotion, beyond uncertainty. But your DNA showed us that true perfection lies in being perfectly imperfect, in always having room to grow and change. The research facility became Earth's first galactic embassy. The biopods were still used, but now they helped different species understand each other by sharing experiences through DNA-based simulations. Humans learned about alien perspectives, while aliens experienced the unique way humans face challenges. Tom wrote a final entry in his notebook. We thought DNA was just a code that told us who we are. Now we know it's also a story about who we can become. And the best part, it's a story we're still writing, every day, with every choice we make. The collectors never returned, but their attack had taught humanity an important lesson. Their strength wasn't in their ability to fight. It was in their ability to turn every challenge into an opportunity for growth and connection. 1 year after the project began, Dr. Blue made an announcement that surprised everyone. Her species had studied the changes in their own DNA after working with humans. They found that simply being around humans had started to affect their genes, making them more adaptable and emotionally aware. You didn't just show us what DNA can do, she told the volunteers at the anniversary celebration. You showed us what life itself can become when it embraces both change and connection. Every species carries the seeds of its own evolution, but humans, you know how to help those seeds grow. As the sun set on another day of the embassy, Tom watched alien and human children playing together in the garden. Their laughter echoed through the air, a sound that would have been impossible just 1 year ago. A small alien child tugged at his sleeve and asked, "Will you tell us another story about how humans learn to change?" Tom smiled. The real story wasn't just about DNA or biopods or even adaptation. It was about how one species' willingness to embrace their full potential had helped the entire galaxy remember something it had forgotten. That the greatest adventures come not from being perfect, but from being perfectly willing to grow, change, and connect.